Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Transfer Window Show, where me and Clayton have been doing a wrap up of the movers from the January 2025 transfer window. We are pre recording this on Wednesday, and we hope as the window is shut that this is not going to date too much, although the free transfer market is still available. So we caveat this by saying if you're wondering why Clayton's not talking about Arsenal's semi final with Newcastle last night, it's because it's not happened yet. Why are we pre recording? Because I'm on my way up north for the other semi final. How are you, Clayton?
I am all good in the hood, but we'll see if I'm good in the hood when we start talking about Arsenal's window.
Well, actually, let's start there. Arteta made some very interesting comments on Wednesday
He did.
or Tuesday, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, what was the official line? It was like we paraphrasing it, he basically said we wanted to do things we didn't. I'm disappointed, right? And I think he was very vocal. Like he's been asked about it a lot in this January window. Like I religiously watch his press conferences. Like I don't think there's been a single one I've missed since he's been manager. And every single one this window felt like it was dominated by transfer questions, especially around the timing of when Saka got injured and then obviously Jesus got injured. And there was one press conference as well that was so clear to me where he said the reality, like it was so direct, like the reality is we've lost two forwards. It's not a want, it's a need. And so I think he was very clear in his communication throughout the whole window that we wanted and needed to do something. And yeah, he was quite visibly disappointed when speaking about it. But then the flip side is like what I quite like about him is he was just like, oh, it's done now. I'm now focused on maximizing the group I've got and taking it from there. But yeah, he seems quite rightly disappointed.
It feels like, and I try and be neutral here. It feels like you were trying to go for a big one, and if you couldn't do a big one, don't bother. And we spoke about that. Like, don't spend like 30, 40 million on a botch job that then means you don't spend 80 to 100 on the one you really want in the summer. So I think, link names, Gokeres, Sesko, Watkins, these were the sort of names that you'd have gone, yeah, this is the sort of top level signing that maybe you want. It's going to be very difficult to get that profile player in a January. And I guess there was maybe some hope Leipzig going out the Champions League that Sesko might have been available. I know Gokeres' name came up quite a bit on Sunday, and Nico Williams didn't play for Athletic Bilbao, was
I
another
did see
potential option.
Gyökeres. I saw him. I saw Williams' his name quite a bit on the Sunday. Yeah, when like you said, he wasn't in the Bilbao squad.
But it was never a case on actual Monday on deadline day. It looked like we can do anything, did it? At any
No,
point.
not at all. I think the only thing I wasn't sure was like, would they go back in for Watkins with a second bid? So yeah, yeah, I ended up with nothing.
Just to line on Newcastle, who have also not done anything. Obviously, let Miguel Almiron go back to Atlanta United and MLS, and they've managed to get a great deal for Lloyd Kelly from Juventus, who Juventus have now paid more for Lloyd Kelly, who Newcastle got on the free transfer in the summer, than what they let Dean Howson go to Bournemouth for.
Ha.
Not quite sure on yeah, there's a roundabout triangle there that doesn't make a lot of sense actually. But yeah, Newcastle were never liable to do much this window because of PSR complications. They should be free to do stuff in the summer. I don't think this handicapping of them won't last for much longer. We're not going to cover every club on this because obviously a lot of clubs have been quite quiet, including Nottingham Forest, very bizarrely. Should we talk about my team first, I suppose?
Go for it. Tell us how you feeling.
I was just saying to you before we started that if he turns out to be really good, I've got podcast titles for about a year actually.
Well, I think you should
Um,
be excited about him potentially turning out good. Yeah.
I am a little bit mixed emotions on it in the end because he clearly was umming and ahhing about joining, and I was very much with obviously talking about Mathys Tel here. I've been very much of the opinion that if someone doesn't want to join at the moment, like move on. Like don't panic. What I didn't want Tottenham to do was end up panicking, and there was some names getting linked about. Like Leon Bailey's name came up early
Is it? I didn't see
On
that.
Monday morning. It got mentioned in a few circles, and I really like Leon Bailey, but Leon Bailey's not going to be my long-term right winger.
Hmm.
So it's like, don't go down that route. Like, go for what you really want, or don't bother at all. And I kind of come at peace that if Tottenham couldn't find anything, it's like, okay, let's carry on, basically. It's not ideal, but I'd rather they did that than get a player in. It's like, oh, next January we've got to offload this guy because he's not been good enough. Like, kind of the situation, with all due respect, we've been in with Werner, right? It's wasted everyone's time for a year. Tell is incredibly talented.
Where do you
He
Where do you see him fitting in with you guys? Because you said you thought of Bailey, thinking is he going to be the long-term right winger? Like Tell's played across the front three essentially, right? So where do you see him fitting in with you guys?
The honest answer is, I know it's kind of like the big question. Where's he going to play, James? The honest answer is, I'm not sure yet. He came to my attention firstly, kind of 18 months ago. Tottenham tried to get him as part of the Harry Kane deal.
Ah,
So he was a name that became familiar then. Tottenham wanted him included, and this is obviously going back to when he was like 18. So Tottenham have had a long-standing interest in this player. It's not someone that's just come to light. And we played them twice last summer
hmm.
in friendlies. And in the game we played them in Asia, he played on the left, and we could not deal with him.
I think I remember you talking about that on a pod
I
actually. Yeah,
did. I spent about an hour yesterday trying to find what podcast that was, and I couldn't find it. So if
didn't
anybody
happen then.
knows, particularly any of our patrons know, I think it was probably a patron podcast. But I spoke about him at length, and I was like, I tell you what, he's a potential superstar. Now I saw him off the left, kind of real, kind of like direct runner with good ability. Was possibly going to be a little bit erratic at the end because the kind of conclusion was, I don't know how he's finished that 45 minutes of football and not scored against us.
I mean, he's
But
young, right? He's really
exactly.
young.
But in terms of ability, it was like, wow. Now, if you listen to the people in Germany at the moment who speak about him, they're very much messaging and saying this guy is going to be a number nine,
Okay.
and that's where he should play. But clearly, and you will have heard me scream this regularly a lot about Tottenham need someone who can be a 1v1 dribbler in a wide area massively. It's a big, big problem. And if Solanke's fit, we don't quite have the need for a nine in the sense that this guy is multifunctional, can play
Hmm.
left central or right, we believe. Solanke is nine.
Yeah.
There's not much debate about
He's
that,
a
right?
specialist. Yeah.
Richarlison, you can shove wide, but not the kind of wide specialist that Tottenham would want. I have a sneaky that he might end up just playing all three positions. Like at the moment, there's a real hole on the right. So James Maddison is not available at the moment, as far as I'm aware at the time of recording. So the creativity needs to come through Kulusevski a lot. Try and get him centrally. What's your options on the right? Well, he played Mikey Moore there on Sunday. Mikey should play on the left or central. He shouldn't be playing right. So the biggest hole at the moment is on the right. Well,
Mm.
Brennan Johnson's unavailable and James Maddison's unavailable because you want Kulusevski in a more central area. And Kulusevski, Ange doesn't really want out wide, but does a great job. And he may well play there against Liverpool. Kulusevski played that role brilliantly against Manchester City when we won at the Etihad. So he might play on the right. I think he could be Son's successor
Yeah, I think
off the
that feels
left.
so natural in terms of age profiles and succession planning as well.
And when we say successor, we're not saying take Son out of the team immediately. We're talking about Son did sign his contract extension, which was kind of obligated by Tottenham, basically. There's belief that Son was a little bit frustrated that he wasn't offered improved terms. I'm not frustrated with that at all. But you have to take notice of the words that are coming out of Germany that are very much saying this guy should be a number nine.
Yeah, and like I was kind of reading around and just found some quotes from Thomas Muller, his old manager Nagelsmann. Muller saying like superb finisher, actually reminded him of Robin with his drive to score. Nagelsmann saying he's quick, strong, could easily score 40 goals a season in the future. Like they're not light words what people are saying about him. What is the actual deal? Is it loan with obligation, loan with option?
So it's option.
Okay.
We're not quite certain of what that option nature is, i.e., if Tottenham just go, yeah, we're going to pay you the money and he becomes Tottenham's player. Because there has been speculation that a contract on was either 5.5 or 6.5 years has been agreed with the player. So, but I guess if he doesn't, unless he's already put pen to that contract, which is a possibility, then if Tottenham paid a fee and he goes, well, actually, I don't want to join you permanently. If you don't sign, you don't sign, right?
Is
So
that so that's a possibility, is it? Okay.
I think we're looking at and I guess so, but I can't, I'm not there in the boardroom to know if Tell's gone, yeah, okay, fine, I'm happy to come permanently. The legend of the story is that Johan Lange went out there and presented a proposal in terms of Tottenham's project of like what they want to be as a club and stuff. And supposedly he wasn't impressed, Tell. Then Daniel Levy's flown out there as well to try and push through the deal, and he's not impressed with him either. And he's like, no. The word was that he was holding out for Manchester United.
Ah,
That
okay.
was the word that was going around on kind of Thursday, Friday, and actually immediately as it was kind of like Tottenham were in serious talks, there was word going around in Tottenham ITK circles that he wanted to go to Manchester United, which I knew that Manchester United could only do a loan. There
Yeah.
was no way that United could do a purchase, and Tottenham wanted to do the purchase, right? So the two guys went out there, they couldn't get the deal done. Dennis dead in the wall. He's like, no, I don't want to go. There was rumours of your club, and I
Yeah.
could see that as a fit on the left. The thing with United was, I was like, it doesn't really fit into. Is that just like a Garnacho problem again? Unless they visualised him as the nine, I get
Yeah.
it.
I think that's the thing. Like, I wanted him purely on a loan, like no option obligation. Well, option would have been nice, no obligation. But from his perspective, if he's going for a move to get game time, I don't think that would have been promised at Arsenal.
The rumor that supposedly swung it in Tottenham's direction was two things. One, there wasn't anyone else truthfully forthcoming with anything that was similar to what Tottenham were available to offer Bayern Munich. I don't know if there was other interest. Because again, when the first news went around, it was like there's 6, 7 clubs interested, but no one else kind of ever seemed to really firm that up, basically. The rumor is Ange got on Zoom and spoke to him. That's which just feels wacky. But then I guess Ange was busy with the football on Sunday. I don't know if this conversation happens Sunday night, but he was on a plane quite early on Monday. And rather than selling the project of what the football club was going to be, Ange spoke to him and said, "This is what I want you to be as a player," and
Fair
seemed
play.
to convince him. What that looks like, none of us really know, and I don't know if we're going to know straight away.
So is
So
it
the
difficult for the fantasy perspective then of knowing, do you go there, do you not? We obviously said
well,
on yesterday's show, 6 million mid.
the thing is, I would doubt that he'll start at Liverpool. But you and I saw Mikhailo Mudryk make his debut as a substitute at Anfield and never look as good again, right? But I guess with the tight turnaround Thursday, Sunday, I guess it's probably a sub at Liverpool and there's every chance he'll start at Villa on Sunday. Now, if he starts at Villa on Sunday, he does really well. And if Tottenham have done the business at Liverpool on the Thursday and there's a double game week and he's sitting there as a 6 million midfielder, and then it looks like, yeah, I think he's going to start against Manchester United actually. Of the new pressed players, he is the one you think, ah, by the end of the season, he might be in everyone's team, possibly. So he is, I guess, from a fancy purpose of the new signings, he is the player to watch the most over the next few days, especially if Tottenham did reach the final on Thursday evening. But exactly where he's going to fit in, I'm not sure yet. I know our biggest problem is the wide positions rather than the nine position.
What would your preference be?
If everyone's fit,
Yep.
it plays on the left.
Takes over from
But
Sunny.
but I don't think that's Ange's preference.
Fair play. Yeah,
So
like you said, we'll
a
get two
two
games of information in the cups to find out.
to be confirmed. And I do think he'll probably be used in multiple different positions. It's also worth saying he easily could be the nine in the short term as well, right? Because I mean, relying on Richarlison to stay fit while Solanke's out, Richarlison could get injured this week, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, Tel was playing as the nine. And I guess again under that circumstance, if you're like, oh, 6 million midfielder playing as the nine in a double game week for Tottenham, it would attract some interest quite quickly. Um, We've also got a new centre back in, Kevin Danso. That's to replace Radu Dragusin's unfortunate anterior cruciate ligament injury.
Stolen from Wolves to the outrage of the Wolves fans.
Yeah, Bradley didn't buy it on COTC, but they were very much buying on Slack on Sunday or Saturday night because he was genuinely going to Wolves for a medical on Sunday, and it does seem Tottenham have realised the extent of the Dragusin problem and leapt in. We're also absolutely certain that Tottenham bid for Mark Gay for around about
Yes,
70
70
million
mil.
pounds, which has caused, and again, I'm speaking obviously on the Thursdays. I probably haven't got the team news that many of you listening and watching will have, but speculation that Van der Ven is set back and Romero's still away. And yeah, we were. The interesting thing with Danso, who's obviously an out and out centre back, coming in to join Tell. And obviously, Kinski was signed earlier in the window. Vicario is very close, we think, to being available. We can only add 3 new players to the Europa League squad. And obviously,
Okay.
to do that, you need to take 3 players out. Now, Dragusin will come out, obviously.
Hmm.
I would think Werner probably comes out. But also, Jed Spence wasn't registered. And Jed Spence has been
He's been very
outstanding to
good.
the extent that people were questioning if he should come out the team, say, once Destiny Doggy's back fit. And in terms of covering fullback areas, he's got to go in the squad. So the thought is at the moment that Kinski might get left out because Vicario has recovered a little bit quicker than expected. Therefore, it does mean that there's every chance Kinski might even play quite a bit more in the league because there'll be, if we're like 11th, 12th, they might just be like, right, Kinski playing the league. If we're still in Europe and Vicario plays European games, that's a possibility even later in the season if we go deep in Europe. So we think Kinski might not be added to the European squad because the other three really need to be. I think the Tell move, if it becomes permanent, would probably be preempting that Richarlison would move on in the summer.
Okay.
It's almost like buy him before you sell. Quite
Yep.
often clubs do it the other way, but it feels like a little bit like that.
Yeah,
It's
I think
probably
that's such an exciting, well, like obviously not from the Arsenal fan perspective, but just being a talent in Europe. I think it's definitely one to keep
he's
an eye on how he
19.
develops.
How many
Yeah,
players have we seen at 19 look like they're going to go on and be world beaters and then, with all due respect, like not lived up to the hype in future years? I use an example like Callum Hudson-Odoi got in the England squad like after about 10 games for Chelsea, then had injury issues. He's obviously rediscovering himself now at Nottingham Forest. But yeah, there's no guarantee. So the option to look at him properly as well, maybe Tottenham will deem in the summer don't want to buy him
yeah,
and they go elsewhere. I suspect it probably will become permanent. I don't like getting players on loan for just for the sake of loans. I think another club who did business where they got players in to sell was Villa. You look at like the Daniel Marlon transfer, possibly preempting John Duran going.
yep.
They obviously got an offer that eventually they felt they couldn't refuse. What was your thoughts on Rashford going now?
I'm really happy for him. Like I actually tweeted this out.
Yeah, I like that.
I've it there were two, 3 shows ago where we were trying to predict where he'd go, right? It's one of them in hindsight. Like Villa feels like a really obvious one that feels like a really good fit, and he is someone that I mean, he made his flipping. I think he scored on his debut against Arsenal, so like I should have animosity towards him, but I really like him just as a person. He does a lot of good in the community. Obviously, Man United fans or whatever's happened there, that would divide opinion. But like he's what was it, 400 appearance for United? He's capped 60 times for England. Like I've got a lot of time for Marcus Rashford, and again, like perhaps over analysing, he looks a bit rough at the minute. Like I'd like to see him just get back to playing with a smile on his face again, and I feel like Villa could be a
I
really
suppose
nice
he's
fit
been
for him.
sleeping rough, Clates. It's not that bad off.
No, but yeah, like we said on yesterday's show, you never know what's going on, right? And it's I mean, yeah, I'd hazard a guess that he's not happy, not really
Can't
enjoying
be.
it. Yeah, so I really, really hope it works out for him. I think it's a really nice move. Yeah, let's see how he gets on.
A manager that will no doubt provide structure as well. Absolutely, definitely Unai Emery, and that's not anything accused at Ruben Amorim, by the way, because we've not really seen Rashford play for Amorim other than what the first couple of games that he did all right in, and then we never saw him again. So it seems like a move that everyone's quite happy with. We think there's an option to buy for 40 million.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's surprising. I think if you'd have said to people at the start of the window, Rashford's going to end up at Villa, I think people would have been surprised. We think he was potentially holding on to Barca. You know what the danger is with Barca? It's like registering players, but also, where was he going to play?
But
Like
that
Rafinha's on fire at
That's
that
why it's
side.
interesting. I feel like if someone told me at the start of the window Villa, I'd be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because the Barca thing for me was never on the table because of the reasons you just said. Dortmund was a team touted, but like wages, this, that. Like I feel like Villa, like that's kind of shown with Asensio. I do think Villa do have that. There's something about the profile of players that Villa do sometimes get where it does feel very football managery. I can't really put into words why, but like someone like Asensio, he's yeah. Again, so I think there's a relationship there, isn't there, with the is it their sporting director or I don't know what his job title is, but the guy that runs the transfers at Villa. But yeah, even that's an interesting signing. I mean, where is he going to play at Villa? I'm not sure. I checked this. There's a website called Football Critic, which breaks down the positions in your last 50 games. And for him, it was like 18 games right forward, 17 games centre forward, 7 centre mid, third as like a right-sided 10, three as a number 10, two on the left side of the front three. So be interesting to see where he fits in. But quite an exciting profile.
I think we know now that Marcus Rashford would be best off the left. And I also think Villa at their best tend to have a bias down that side. So if you can get him off the left and into pockets in more central areas, that does feel absolutely ideal for him. I guess subject to Ollie Watkins' fitness, there's a strong possibility he would maybe start up front against my team. at the weekend. And again, if he played as the nine and then Villa land with a double game week and he does well against Tottenham, it's not going to take much for people to go, yeah, 6.6, Marcus Rashford, double game week. Ipswich at home next, particularly if Watkins was then ruled out and you thought Rashford was going to play up front against Ipswich. You can feel a narrative there. It might be just like stick him in and I'll deal with that afterwards. So a little bit like Tell, one very much to watch over the weekend. I think he's going to be best off the left. But it was interesting listening to Lee on Tuesday's Clash of Correspondence saying really doesn't want Jacob Ramsey to come out the team at the moment. He's playing really well
Yeah.
in that position. So Rashford off the right, it's never felt right.
No, it hasn't. Yeah, good window for
The
Villa,
first
I
thing they've got
think.
to do is get him up to fitness because clearly not going to be at 100%. And that's why I think they probably want to get him in the team quickly and use the Tottenham game to get his fitness up. I like you. I really hope that it goes well. We did speak with Lee quite a bit about Villa's business on COTC on Tuesday, which included a late move for Marco Asensio. The one we didn't know was going to be confirmed, but we did allude to it. Or basically, I said, Lee, can you take him, please?
Ah,
Was Axel Disasi.
you didn't want him though,
No,
because
short-term gap. I don't want that bollocks, man. No, and I just don't think he's profile of defender for Tottenham. I do think that doesn't mean it's a bad signing for Villa, by the way. I just think it's players in certain systems. Like Dragishin was not suitable for Tottenham. I had this discussion with a few patrons on Tuesday as well. Dragishin would look, I think, really good in certain other teams as a centre back. It's just not right for Tottenham. Disasi might be right for Villa. And they had to get someone in because they'd let Diego Carlos go, who I wasn't a huge fan of. Mings is injured, but it's not serious. Pau Torres also injured. They've got an issue with Matty Cash at right back. Obviously, had the new lad Andres Garcia sign
yeah.
as well. We spoke about quite a bit on our Patreon pod last Thursday. So getting a centre back in was a priority because obviously they had to play Kamara there. That has the double impact of taking Kamara, who's their best holding midfield player, out of midfield as well. I don't think this is I can play on Sundays. I think he's cup tied, but there's every chance he'll go straight into the team for the league game against Ipswich Palace, Ipswich possibly.
I was thinking this with this aside. Like I've got question marks on his actual defending ability, but he is a set piece for it. And
Oh, no doubt.
Villa are very good at set pieces as well. So I wonder if that's a element of their thinking and getting him in.
You're going to buy him for fantasy, are you?
Probably not, no.
I'll give you the spoiler for if Villa do have a double game week, guys. Lee Jackson's going to say no on the defensive guys, just as a spoiler. So
Check his bio.
he was like Martinez if you must, but Rashford is obviously worth a wash and a wait this weekend, and I guess immediately where he ends up is going to be quite dependent on Watkins' injury status. Manchester City,
Second largest spend in January, I think I read,
I
after
think so. Is it
Chelsea.
of all clubs ever?
I think I
I
read
think
that, yeah. The
after
rebuild is beginning.
the mad Chelsea a couple of years ago. However, we should acknowledge that Manchester City, since signing Haaland, have been pretty quiet. They've actually been net in profit over the last 3 years for transfers, primarily because they've sold a lot of youngsters that you forget were there, like Palmer and Lavia and Azuna, and there's a number of others as well. So this is City's kind of real first splurge of players in a number of years, actually. What have you made of their window, Clates?
Yeah, I think there's a clear strategy there, isn't it? If you look at the two centre backs, like I know Kuzanov had a debut disaster, didn't he? But the profile and age of them, like 20 and 19, I think the other guy is Rice, however you pronounce his
Yeah,
name.
he's still a teenager, I think.
Yeah, but then like you look at the others, like Mamouche, I against Chelsea looked really good. Against Arsenal as well. Like, I know Arsenal won 5-1, but you could see tactically bits of what he was trying to achieve with Mamouche, like getting close to Haaland, and I thought he was positioning himself really well, especially in the first half in between Timber and Partey. And I think he is someone like the output has been there at Frankfurt and stuff. Like you can tell he's 25 years old. He'll be able to contribute now. And then the signing of Nico Gonzalez, like he's 23 years old. He's a La Masia graduate. He's played at Porto. He's made a lot of appearances. I think he made 37 appearances at Barca before he moved on to Porto, where he then made 68 appearances. And reading kind of other people's opinions on him, people that have watched him more regularly, say he's quite a versatile midfielder. He can be quite powerful, dynamic, likes late runs into the box, and not necessarily a Rodri type profile, something a bit different. And yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think it's a really good window for them. Like it's a balance of players that can come in and contribute now, but also really good succession planning in certain areas of the squad. So I think it's quite a good window.
Have they signed anything that makes them better when they lose the ball?
No, but I think this is where like not now. I don't know if this Gonzalez guy could be that maybe. But like that is something where because even in the Arsenal context, I was looking at it like you kind of you got January and the summer to do what you want to do ahead of next season, and I think that's what City are probably doing, right? They're doing part of it now. They'll probably do part of it in the summer. But in terms of have they fixed what their open heart wound looks like for this season? Probably not.
The problem is we've obviously we've tried to avoid it as much as possible talking about Rodri this season. It's kind of the elephant in the room you can never get away from when you're talking about Manchester City. But replacing that or even investing in something to play that position is so difficult because any player would look at it and go, well, he's going to take back my position next summer. And like, then what am I going to do? There's even been some reports that it's not impossible that he returns before the end of the season. I think we'd be talking very, very late if that happens. But it must be for any player. Guess I get the allure of going to play for Manchester City. But if you're a specialist like Rodri, I mean, if Rodri was to stay fit and even get back to 90% of his level, what you getting 10 games? Like in terms of starts, you ain't getting much, are you?
No, but
So I
that's
think
that's
I
the
think they found that very difficult.
yeah, and that's why you do. I've always said this, like where there's certain positions in your squad where you just don't recruit for a backup. So like I think Liverpool have done this well with like they don't have a Salah backup, but they have versatile, dynamic forwards that can contribute if and when he's missing. And I think that's what City are possibly looking to do, where you don't recruit a direct Rodri backup. You kind of look to get different profiles in that can contribute different things in that area of the pitch which they've been lacking. But can this guy contribute to that? Perhaps. We'll see.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of money spent from City, which also kind of inflates the overall Premier League spend in this window because actually between the other 19 clubs, it's less than 100. I would also caveat that by saying there are deals in place like Tel, Rashford that don't have money transferred now, but may well do. And obviously, if they are, that will then go on the summer figures, right?
Yeah.
Seeing this a lot more with January moves, with these options or obligations. Quite a lot of the time as well, it's about when the club wants the money to move. I don't think that's the case here in the Rashford or the Tell deals, but certainly Tottenham have done deals with. Like Romero was a case in point where even that was a summer deal and originally it was a loan for a year
We did it
because
with
because
Raya, right?
because Atalanta wanted the money the following year, and I think that was similar with Brentford's case, wasn't it? It wasn't that
Yeah.
Arsenal wanted a loan; it was the certainty he was signing. It was more to do with Brentford wanted the money the following year, I think, on their accounts rather than the current one. Again, it's games playing of in terms of PSR. City, the one thing you'd say about the new City signings, Kusanov is not ready yet. I'm going to guess on that basis that Vitor Reyes is not ready yet, but they might be City's long term centre back partnership in the long term. Marmoush looks very lively and certainly brings an element of energy to that City team, which is lacking at the moment. Gonzalez, I've not seen a lot of, but I totally get the difficulty in finding a specialist for a Rodri rather than a player like this. And he might be great, right? Because I think Gundogan's obviously not lived up to what people had hoped for. He's obviously not come back the player that left. Kovacic, therefore, has had to cover Rodri's position, basically. So you kind of almost replacing Kovacic as well. So, yeah, completely understand the signing wasn't a name that I'd been too familiar with, but look forward to seeing him. City had to do business. I'm just concerned that they've not fixed the biggest problem. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Gonzalez may well contribute to that. It'd be very harsh for me to judge either way to say will or he won't at the moment. But I guess they've spent that money for him to go in the team.
yeah, you'd think so.
Let's touch on a few others. Crystal Palace. As said, we know that this bid from Tottenham came in for Mark Gay. We know that, and we know obviously Newcastle very much bid for him last year. It does feel like he is highly likely on the move in the summer because I think he might even get to the final year of his contract in the summer,
Okay.
possibly as well. So it's one to note for the summer. That standing centre back. And if Van Dijk did leave Liverpool, I could see Liverpool going down that route, for example. He does sound like Van Dijk and Salah. The noise over the last 48 hours or so is that they probably signed on and they're keeping it quiet because of the Trent situation. That's the rumour that's going around at the moment. Palace obviously got Romain Esse in earlier in the window from Millwall. We spoke about him quite a bit on our Patreon podcast last week. very lively, I guess, the longer term Elise replacement. Ben Chilwell, he's in. And me and Clayton were having a discussion before we started. We're not even sure if he's fit or he isn't fit or
It's hard to know just because he wasn't
we
included
ain't
in
seen
any
him.
of Chelsea's squads, right? So yeah, I've not, I don't know if he's
He's not
fit,
match fit, is he?
available, if he's, no, definitely won't be match fit.
You would think that as long as he's not injured, that he plays at Doncaster Monday night. That's an ideal to try and build up his fitness. Would you see him ousting Tyreek Mitchell?
Well, that's the thing. The other thing you asked me, right? Like, could one of them play left centre back, one left wing back? And like, I hadn't really considered that. But then as soon as you said it, I started reverse engineering. Oh, what's Chilwell's injury? Like looking at how James has been reintroduced at Chelsea. Like, could he take more of a reserve role and position in the team? And I mean, yeah, Ben Chilwell at his best, at his match fitness peak, yeah, I think he can oust Mitchell. But are we going to see that after his injuries? I'm not sure. So probably, possibly integrated as more of a kind of wide centre back with a view to sharing the load, I guess. But again, similar to Rashford, I really like this move for him and think it's one that will do him really well and just need to get him playing again, really.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously a relationship, excuse me, built between Chelsea and Palace with it's probably more long-standing than, Gay went there originally a long time ago. Obviously, Chalobah went there on loan. Clearly, tensions are not too high because Palace have now taken Chilwell from Chelsea following Chelsea recalling Chalobah. You would think that's one really to keep an eye on for fantasy, wouldn't you? If he was going to play left wing back for Palace, I mean, we all like Munoz. Chilwell will be cheaper. If he got in the team as the left wing back, you'd want to keep an eye on that, I think, for future weeks. The only problem is Palace's good run is kind of like now and then. Okay, I don't know if they're blanking or not in game week 29 as it stands, so I won't cover that anymore.
Can you see
Um,
him outsing Mitchell then?
I don't know. He's very dependable, Tyreek Mitchell.
He
But
is.
I don't think he's quite kicked on the way people would hope. But I think actually he was someone we very much saw as a real kind of out and out defensive left back. And I think he's adjusted pretty well to this wing back role. So there's certainly no rush to take him out the team. Put it this way. I think he's perfectly reasonable. I mentioned the left sided centre back role for one of them, which would feel, I guess, probably more suitable for Mitchell. Though I don't think he's like, I don't see him as like a distributor of passer from that area. Maybe more Chilwell, but I think Chilwell is arguably more questionable defensively. I only mention it because I think Mark Gay could play anywhere across the back line. He
Yeah.
regularly plays on the left for Palace, but I don't, he could play central, he could play right sided. I don't. He's played in midfield for Glasner even. Like he's such a good player. You fit him as your best player, but almost fix your worst problem basically. And I just wondered they're a little bit short at centre back because Chalobah's gone back and Charlie Riyad's got a knee injury as well. So Richards is obviously playing regularly as the right-sided centre back. Now they're a little bit light. Like if they lost Gay, they would maybe have to think about using one of those two left wing backs as the left-sided centre back. That's quite possible further down the line. I did think with Chilwell that he might end up at Manchester United. That felt like they need a wing back.
Yeah. But
It
they
might
went
be
and
a
got
short
someone
term that
else.
works for everyone. They did. What can you tell me about United's new left wing back?
Well, he's very young. He's 20 years old, I think. He's Danish. He's made quite a few appearances for Lecce, where he came from. I think he made 57 appearances since his senior debut. And again, I can't confess that I've watched him myself, so a lot of this is reading what kind of Serie A insiders say, what Jason Wilcox, the technical director, said that people describe.
This is sorry to interrupt you. Just this is Patrick Dorgu.
Oh, sorry, yeah, did
We
I not say his
neither of
name?
us said his name, so that's carry on.
It's,
Sorry.
yeah, he's described as pretty exciting talent. He's quite strong offensively, defensively, but someone that can come in, contribute now, but more for the future. But yeah, it sounds like profile wise, yeah, that kind of left wing back that Man United have needed. Can he be a solid 1v1 defender? Can he be good positionally? Can he contribute going forward in the final third? So yeah, and I did read somewhere that he can be deployed as a left-sided centre back if needed as well. So I think we spoke on our Patreon pod, didn't we, about Man United needing to build in phases, and phase one might just be about reliability and key positions. So can they do that with someone who at 20 years old can grow with them as they evolve through the phases under Amrim? If
So
they
this
do.
this fellow is more defender than winger. Is that fair to say? Therefore, I
I
mean, you've said he could cover at left-sided centre back.
Yeah, I don't know because I've seen he can play as a wing back and is fairly comfortable in the final third, it sounds like. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think United can be what Amram wants them to be until they fixed because they're such a special. If you're going to play that system, it's so important that you have players that are suitable to play those roles in those positions, right? It's not to discredit what Dallo and Matswari are doing, but you want at least one that can really carry up the pitch. So you'd have maybe even a lean one way or the other.
One quite telling thing was like I remember seeing a quote on I think it was a BBC Sport article and like, there was a Serie A journalist that just said he is one of the best young fullbacks in Italy, but like the move to the Premier League is a big step. So I think if someone said that follows him regularly, then yeah, perhaps a bit of patience required with him.
I have heard, and I don't know if this is true. And again, obviously we're 24 hours in advance, so a little bit dangerous. But Luke Shaw possibly has had a setback again.
Ah, no way.
And I think he was possibly going to obviously cover, I guess, for Martinez, who's obviously had his own terrible injury. It's going to rule him out for the season. So, yeah, this fella, he could even end up as a left-sided centre back. I certainly think Matswari can play in a back three. Not ideal, but he definitely can, no doubt. So, yeah. Can you tell us anything about the other player United have bought, Aidan Heaven? Because he's
Yeah,
joined from
I've
Arsenal.
I've seen him in the academy a couple of times to be fair. So he's a centre back at the top at sorry in the senior level, but he grew up as a midfielder to be fair in the academy and I mean I don't see him contributing in the first team anytime soon. I think that is definitely one for the future, but like I'd say he's technically okay. I wouldn't say he's exceptional, but he's quite tall, he's quite powerful, he's quite physical. I'd be incredibly surprised if he contributes anything in the first team in the
Well,
immediate.
they paraded him on the pitch with Dorgu
Fair play.
on Sunday, and the line is that he's going to join the first team squad.
Fair play. Let's just say he's not a talent that we've lost at Haaland that I've lost any sleep over. Yeah, I like talented player, but I don't think he's gonna go on and kind of hit the heights that other kind of academy prospects do.
A lot of the moves that you'll see, and you'll see players moving between clubs, and you're like, I don't know who that is. I mean, I'll give you an example. Tottenham have bought academy players from Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester City in this window. Reece Alexander, Russell Denny from Chelsea, which is nowhere near a mouthful. Luca Fernal-Gill from Liverpool, and Dan Batty from Manchester City. So Tottenham taking academy players from, and this Heaven move from Arsenal to United looked like a kind of a similar one. But the line is that he probably is going to join the first team squad, whereas none of them Tottenham Academy boys are going to be joining the first team squad this season.
Well, interesting. I didn't know he's going to join the first team squad. I mean, yeah, he's very raw. There's lots of things for him to kind of improve and work on, but yeah, we'll see how he gets on. I wonder if like yeah, that move and trend of people taking talent from academies, is that a PSR related thing, I wonder? Trying to stockpile people
I
with a
think
view
in
to set.
Tottenham's case, Tottenham, this is well, I've documented a lot of times, have such a homegrown
Yeah.
quota problem. And I do think Tottenham, again, ask them to bat differently in the window. If Tottenham are taking some of the best kids from other clubs, and it's not to say they are, I don't, let's be honest, I don't know anything about these lads, but you'd think it bodes well, potentially. So what these kids want now, I think kids are getting a little bit more clued up. So it's not to discredit Chelsea in any way, right? But Chelsea's been a factory of getting academy players through, and then they sell these guys for good profit, right? Oh, Chelsea beating PSR. Well, a lot of it is to keep selling all these young players, right? And they go as 100% profit. It's people like Tino Livramento, you forget was ever at Chelsea, for example, right? But I think now there's more, what the players want is to know that there's a potential of a pathway.
Yeah.
Feels like the real biggest thing. Because if they're good enough and they get the pathway, if you like Dan Batty, who's gone from Tottenham to Man City, if Dan Batty breaks through into the Tottenham team in 3 years and he's running the midfield and he wants to go back to City, he go back to City, right? So I think the kids now realise the importance of the pathway. And I think actually, if you take City as an example, sorry, I know it's kind of a roundabouts conversation. I feel like the development feels stunted. And also now with the Palmer move from City to Chelsea, the kids at City are like, oh, wow, look what happened there. Because none of us expected Palmer to go off the way he did, right?
Yeah.
So I think the kids are really looking for their pathways at the moment. It's something the likes of City and I think particularly Chelsea as well need to be quite cautious about. One player was extremely highly rated as a young lad, and he still is a young lad. He's Evan Ferguson,
Yeah.
who has joined West Ham on loan. What's the reaction to that? I don't think there's an option. Have I got that wrong? I just think it is
I
a
didn't think
loan
that's.
for now.
I think it's just a loan as well. But even that, like again, when he kind of burst onto the scene, he was touted as like I saw people describe, is this the next Rooney? This, that. Like he was really highly rated, weren't he? And I think he still is highly rated. Just been really unlucky with injuries. So could that be the club where, I mean, he knows the manager. Can he get himself just playing regularly, get himself fit, and see what he can do? Again, it's a move that I think is really smart. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, West Ham are obviously been short. The injuries to Antonio, Fulkrug, I'd seen it revealed on Wednesday morning as well that Somerville, who we kept here and was close, 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 suffered a setback, or I think a different hamstring injury. So he's going to be out for quite a while. So West Ham are very light in the attacking areas. So needed to do something, but also in a weird way, I don't think they needed to, because I think anyone who's watched them the last few games is definitely not thinking they're in trouble. They're going to be absolutely fine. And I do wonder if the process of his football is more important. If West Ham sign him permanently, I'm absolutely fine with this. It just feels one that who benefits from this?
Evan
Like
Ferguson
like
does.
if it's not permanent, who benefits from this?
I think that mostly the player, in my opinion, in this situation, because I don't think he was going to get game time at Brighton for whatever reason. So I think from his perspective, he is very likely to get himself into a position where he can play regularly again. So I think if you look at the three parties, it's probably him that benefits the most here. And West Ham as well, right? Like I know that league season, what is there to play for, people will say, but like if he can contribute to them winning football games, then they benefit.
Well, yeah, but the only thing I'd say is because it's new manager coming in, it feels like Potter getting his ideas over is the most important thing in the next 4 months. And if the player's not going to be there next year, what did it? Oh, got us an extra two places, an extra 5 million. It'd probably pay for the loan fee, right? To get the places back in terms of positioning and stuff like that. I get it. I hope that he turns into a permanent move for both, and I hope that he does really well at West Ham. There's no doubt a very talented player there, and if West Ham can and he can rediscover, a player when he scored the hat trick against Newcastle game before last year, people were going, he won't leave Brighton for less than 100 million.
Yeah.
And you fast forward like 18 months, he's going to West Ham on loan.
Yeah.
So let's hope he finds the player, and there definitely is a good centre forward in there.
Brighton, speaking of good centre forwards, I know this is a bit of a tangent, but Brighton did get someone in that they've loaned out. I think his name was Janis Simas. I've seen his name before. I've seen him linked with Liverpool. That's one to keep an eye on. Like I said, it's not one for this
Oh, it's
season,
just
but
the fella from Nuremberg,
yeah,
Stefano
really,
Shimas. Yeah, really highly rated. Yeah.
very highly rated. So yeah, again, not relevant for now, but yeah, one to keep an eye on his career.
Can you tell me anything about Iran Cashin?
Only from what I read in articles. Again, have I ever watched this
He's
guy?
gone from Derby to Brighton.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about him. I'm going to be very honest.
Yeah, he's a defender. He's played quite a lot for Derby. I think he made 44 appearances last season. Obviously, they got promotion, didn't they? So they got promotion from League One the season before last. Hertzler's quote on it was that yeah, he's gained a lot of experience in the Championship. He's a good profile. He's a left-sided defender and he's a strong defensive option. So I think probably just a depth option. Like, yeah, I think that we speak quite a lot, don't we, about the profile of like a left-sided defender and the angles that can open up, especially for these kind of very tactical minded managers, and they look at the angles and the build-up options and stuff. So sounds like probably just a squad depth option, but yeah, quite experienced with 44 appearances at Derby. But I think he was quite a young lad from memory.
So
I
not
need to
likely to
double
go
check.
first choice.
I
You
don't
don't think?
think so, but it's hard
No.
to say with these players when you haven't, like, I've not actually watched him myself, so just kind of relying on other sources.
Brighton have done a bit of skinning. By the way, just a plug for different content creators. But if you haven't seen the clip going around from FML FPL about Cole Rushworth dropping in price in FPL, having just been recalled by Brighton from Hull to cover Jason Steele's injury, that is some funny content, lads. Well done. They have skinned a bit this window in terms of moving a few players out. Headline one from a Premier League perspective is obviously Enciso going to Ipswich. By the way, the Barco dream is absolutely over at this stage. If anyone thought that was going to happen, he's gone to Strasbourg now. Enciso to Ipswich, and that's not the only bit of business that the Tractor Boys have done. They've obviously got in Jane and Philogene Biddance as well. Ben Godfrey signed at the back and made a late sign of Alex Palmer, goalkeeper from West Brom, on deadline day. Quite a cheap fee, around about 4 million. I think there's every chance he'll go in goal, by the way,
Yeah,
because
Muric.
Muric and Walton have had problems, man.
Yeah. And Palmer's, yeah, he's again quite experienced. I think he's made over 100 appearances for West Brom. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that's definitely a spot in the squad up for grabs.
They've been really unlucky in the sense that they've had two very serious injuries on the right midfield berth in Ogbene and Burns. And when you and I looked at what teams would probably need most last summer, we said Ipswich right midfield,
Yep.
and they've lost the two players who can play there. Now, Philogene Biddens could play out there. Yeah, there's others you can move out there. I think Hutchinson could play a wider role. They do have decent numbers and decent variation of attacking talent. I think they've got the most variety of the three Premier League clubs to score the goals to maybe get them out of it. The problem is, I just don't really see it, to be honest, at the moment. And Wolves have added a couple, importantly. Agbadu, do many of us be familiar with now. But they've added two more players. Nasser Dija, who's a centre back from Red Star Belgrade, and Marshall, not Mathers, Monetsi, a midfield player from Rems. Do we know anything about these two latest additions? I know Bradley said that there was every chance they were going to go and compete, particularly Dija, he thought was going to go in at centre back.
I don't know much about Didger. On Manetzi, just yeah, quite experienced. He's 28, Zimbabwean. He's capped 23 times for his country. And profile, like yeah, I mean, he scored 21 goals from midfield, so that's always quite impressive. Sounds like a bit of a leader as well. Yeah, he obviously knows Agbadu as well. So yeah, he's quite an experienced player. He sounds quite well rounded. And I think it was Matt Hobbs, their sporting director, actually said like physicality wise, that was something they looked at in terms of his readiness for the Premier League. So yeah, profile sounds pretty encouraging.
Okay, just a couple more lines. Obviously, Southampton did a bit of business in terms of new signings that we covered on Patreon last week in terms of Wellington and is it Grombeck, the
Yeah,
attacking
Grumbeck.
midfield player.
Yep.
They both obviously went straight in the team at Ipswich at the weekend. Wellington is a 4.0 defender. I'm not suggesting anyone buys a Southampton defender, but if we're potentially going to be excited about Ben Chilwell at wing back, we should watch this fella maybe playing 4.0 at wing back. And from the bits I did see at the weekend, Grombeck does like a shot from the edge of the box and stuff. We spoke about them quite a bit, as I said, on our Patreon pod last week. Fulham, at the time of recording, in terms of players still out of contract and be bought, we think Fulham are trying to do a deal to re-sign Willian at the time of recording, which I guess makes sense with the Harry Wilson injuries. He's going to be out to sort of mid to end of April, it sounds like. So getting William back in on short term is very much loved there. The other one maybe to cover, just to give you your Beto plug again, is Carlos Alcaraz, who many people might remember at Southampton a few years ago. I certainly remember his goal at the Emirates. Decent attacking midfield player who could contribute, and I would foresee him playing the 10 position for Everton. He's joined on loan from Flamengo, which is quite interesting because Everton had to put a deal sheet in for him. I don't know if you knew this, despite the fact Flamenco had tweeted that he'd moved to Everton 3 days earlier.
No, I didn't know that.
And had needed a deal sheet to get it over the line. I don't know what the hold up was, but they have officially signed him. Yeah, as I said, I think there's every chance he'll become the 10 actually in Everton's team and play behind your boy Beto, mate.
Yep, my boy indeed, who I just needed for 1 week, and then I'm gonna love him and ditch him and ship him off.
I am very surprised that they didn't buy a striker
Yeah, I think like you said, going
or at
into
least
that,
loan one in.
yeah, they were trying, right? But yeah, probably just couldn't find the right option for him.
Yeah. Just want to finish with a bit on Bournemouth, maybe. Feels like the only other one maybe to cover. Because they've had a couple coming in. We'd mentioned previously Julio Soler,
Yeah.
who's a left back. He's still on international duty actually at the moment at a youth tournament. He's probably going to cover for Milos Kerkez. I don't know much about the other lads that they've got in. Ellie Junior Krupi and Matai Akin Boni. I pronounced the names, Clayton, so you can give me the detail.
I can't give you detail, mate. I can give you a snippet. Just the Croupy guy. He's gone on loan again. So
Has he gone back out? Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
he's touted as. I mean, I read somewhere Wonder Kid. I can't remember if that was a Bournemouth article or something, but
Lorient's their feeder club, isn't it?
are they? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I say feeder clubs, probably. Actually, yeah, bollocks, it is. Foley's got a large investment in them as well, hasn't he? Bill Foley, the Bournemouth owner.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, he's someone that perhaps one for the future. But yeah, he's gone back out on loan. And Akin Bomney, Simon Francis, yeah, he's their technical director nowadays, I
Used to play in
think.
defence for them, yeah.
Yeah. He said like they've tracked him for a while, but he made his debut in the MLS, this guy at 15 years old. So I think that was for DC United. So I think he's a defender. But yeah, I can't confess to know too much about that. But I feel anyone making their debut 15, um, yeah, one to keep an eye on.
I was surprised as well with them that they didn't add more offensively, considering the issues they've had with obviously the two strikers got injured. But I guess they've looked at what Utara's done and thought, okay, that's great. With Tavernier coming back to fitness and trying to think what would they do if Tavernier got injured? Probably just float Cliver or Semenyo in that position as cover. So it's not like they're completely out of options, even if say like Utara got injured in the nine position. He's obviously been doing really, really well. I just felt with the opportunity they're at, and he's not been shy spending Foley, and then no issues from PSR or anything like that. I thought they might have pushed for something a little bit more considering where they are. Neil Grover always says that he says you're kind of ahead of schedule, very much so in terms of what the ambition of the club was. I mean, the opportunity there is huge at the moment, isn't it? Like they
Yeah,
are really in the race for Champions League now.
yeah, definitely. And if they get it, oh my God, I'm very intrigued to see what they do in the summer.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. That's covered most of the clubs and some bits and bobs. That's give you the full lowdown. I think we've told you the story,
Oh
and
dear
now
God.
I'm now I'm probably off to watch him and realise, oh, he's not as good as I thought he was. Probably. So,
Safe
Clates,
travels.
thank you very much for that, guys. If you've got new signings, good luck. I think probably in summary, it was probably quite interesting for me as a Tottenham fan going into deadline day. But it's difficult when you've got stuff going on with your club to realise what it is across the board. Everybody was like, I thought it was going to blow off on deadline day, and it just so rarely does on
Yeah.
deadline day. That stuff with like Torres going to Chelsea in January and stuff like that. It's so rare you're going to ever see the like of that again. I'll be streaming with Ask James tomorrow. The time is scheduled to change. It's currently scheduled for 6 p.m. UK time, subject to when I get back from Liverpool, etc., etc. But that's the plan. 6 p.m. UK time. As ever, if you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL, which included, and it's still readily available for everyone, the transfer window show we did on Patreon last Thursday. We looked in a lot more detail at the signings that had been done earlier in this window. Just leaves me to say thanks very much, Clates. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please. Man child.